You love her voice, you love her looks, but Melissa loves our comic books. And it's okay if you don't love the voice and the looks. There's still good comic book history here for you nonetheless. So let's jump into it. We are going to talk about adventure comics again. We talked about adventure comics last time, and we talked about how it was changing with new features that just weren't understanding the zeitgeist of 1938. But I want to do one more episode that's going to focus on just what the contents were at the end of 1938, a snapshot in time, if you will. Um, Bear in mind, there is a lot of material in a 64-page anthology. Some are stories and some are just filler. I'm going to talk about half of the contents in this episode, representative sampling of Adventure Comics number 34 instead of every single feature. First of all, let's pause at this ad for Detective Comics spotlighting Speed Saunders. Saunders? Speed Saunders, not Slam Bradley or Crimson Avenger, as the star. Adventure Comics is referred to as the International Picture Story Magazine, which does feel true. There are more internationally based stories here than you'd certainly see in Detective Comics, though you'd have a weaker argument to make this distinct from Action Comics or more fun comics. Barry O'Neill has been around since the very first issue of New Fun back in 1935 and our second episode. And he's still the nemesis of Fang Gao after all this time. Their conflict has been taking place recently in Egypt for so that neither foe has a home field advantage here. There are some new characters. Dr. Bonfil is on Barry's side. Sheikh Ahmed is a new ally of Fang Gao. Ling Fu is sort of playing both sides, but mainly it's Barry's story and the Legrands, Inspector Legrand and his daughter Jean. Fang Gao has the Legrand's prisoner again and plans to trade Jean to the Sheik to join his harem in exchange for a mind-controlled drug the Sheik has. No explanation for how the Sheik happened to get a hold of this. But it works on Inspector Legrand very well, well enough that he is commanded to kill Barry just as Barry finally finds the new hideout, and then we have a cliffhanger. The artwork remains gorgeous and is the work of Leo O'Melia. Not every panel is perfect, but there are some excellent examples of composition here, like this first panel on this page. Federal Men is exploring that old trope of the amnesia story. Steve Carson has forgotten who he is and winds up in the Biff Davis gang. It's remarkable how many people who lose their memory wind up criminals for a while. A policeman kills Biff during a botched robbery, and guess who chases the gang's getaway car? It's Sandy and Larry from Radio Squad, making their second crossover appearance with Federal Men and the first time they're actually seen on panel. Without Biff, Steve is one of only 4 men left in the gang, and when it comes time to decide on a new leader, Steve convinces 2 of the others that his brains should make him the leader. Red disagrees and pulls a gun on Steve at the story's cliffhanger ending. Joe Shuster is still doing the art on Federal Men. The first page looks like he might have had some assistance on the background work, as we saw more clearly in Spy over in Detective Comics, but the rest of the story looks like only Shuster to my eye. The Junior Federal Men club page is written as if by Steve Carson, sharing passwords and codes with readers so Junior Federal Men can recognize each other. And this page also addresses an issue that really seemed to have bothered Jerry Siegel, accidents where cars have hit people. I have never talked about the feature Dale Daring before. While Dale debuted back in New Comics number 4, way back in 36, by Dick Ryan, that Dale Daring disappeared in New Comics number 10, followed by a complete reboot with a new story by Alex Lovey and Frank Battaferrano. Maybe. That didn't last long because Battaferrano left to go work for Street and Smith, and Lovey left to work in animation on Andy Panda cartoons. Dale Daring was picked up by Will Ellie, at least I'm used to pronouncing that name by now, who is already doing a lot of features for this company by now. Dale tends to have serialized adventures like everyone else here, so this issue is an unusual one-shot for that reason, but also unusual in that the whole installment this month is a dream sequence, yet another old trope of fiction. Dale is so excited about the treasure that she and her boyfriend Don found recently that she has a nightmare of being somehow attacked and captured by 18th century pirates. Of the features I talked about last episode, Detective Sergeant Carey and Nadir, Master of Magic, are both gone, but Captain Desmo is still here. Captain Desmo hasn't aged well, with Indians given names like El Sampaloca. In this last installment of the year, Desmo and Gabby get in a fight with about a dozen armed Indians, a fight it looks like they're going to lose until two U.S. Navy sailors join the fight on their side. And that's really interesting because the U.S. Navy was stationed in the Philippines and China at this time, not India. They must have had some really generous shore leave. Cinema dust, called Stardust in previous issues, is typical filler of the time, sharing little known facts about Hollywood stars that may or may not have actually been true. This is some of the earliest work by DC Comics mainstay Sheldon Moldoff, the master of the trace job, as you can see here. Just like Junior is one of the earliest works by someone else who's going to do a lot of work for DC Comics, Stan Ash. Remember those names. I'm not going to talk about them long now, but we will come back to them and talk about them often. Both of them will have significant roles in the superhero genre to come. Don Quixote is a two-page filler done by Fred Schwab, who mainly worked for the Chesler Studio. This makes me wonder if the Chesler Studio was creating some of the filler used by Detective Comics at this time, or if Schwab was just moonlighting here. As we return to adventure stories, we get Tod Hunter Jungle Master, done by Jim Chambers, who was also, a Chesler Studio employee. Tod Hunter was, in fact, his first feature for DC. Most of his earlier work appeared in the book Star Ranger for Chesler. Tod Hunter has, you might guess after my last episode, a sidekick. Tommy is a monocled fellow, which means that he's more civilized than the rugged Todd. Todd has a girlfriend, Gail, and Todd has to save all three of them from cannibals, an evil scientist, and a gorilla, and that's pretty crowded for a four-page feature. Of course, it ends on a cliffhanger. I have talked about The Golden Dragon before, Tom Hickey's magnum opus as I consider it. Um, this has been going on for 28 episodes so far, and something big is coming. There are 2 pages of build-up as a sinister ceremony is taking place, and a lot of thought went into the details here, like the gold dragon device that the priests are wearing, the human bones being used to play the drums, the dancers with demon masks, very inventive and creative. Well, obviously, there's real-world parallels for that. And all of this is paid off. All of this and the 28 episodes previous, the payoff is that we finally see the golden dragon mentioned in the title. Or what Riley, the main hero of our ensemble cast, thinks is a really gigantic python with gold scales. A little disappointing because I thought it was really going to be a dragon. As the cliffhanger happens, surprise, surprise, a cliffhanger, his girlfriend Doris is about to be fed to the dragon, or python, depending on whose opinion you believe, which is exactly where Tod Hunter's cliffhanger left off with Gale and a gorilla. So we not only have cliffhangers in every story, but sometimes they're the exact same cliffhanger. I have never talked about Rusty and his pals yet, but it's important that we address this because it's the creation of Bob Kane, future co-creator of Batman. Rusty and his pals was Kane's attempt at a Terry and the Pirates clone, and like Terry and the Pirates, it has a large cast of good guys and bad guys. Just over half of this 4-page installment is dedicated to the villains, fleeing a sinking pirate ship on a lifeboat. Because Kane is no Milt Caniff here, there are no sexy female femme fatales like the Dragon Lady. Instead, we get a Chinese caricature called Long Sin, working with a stereotypical pirate down to his eye patch. And meanwhile, Rusty, his grown-up pal, chaperone, and Pat Ryan clone Steve, and two other kids, I haven't even bothered learning their names yet, are trying to escape the island of a third villain whose name is Ichabod Slade. And I gotta admit, that is a really cool name for a villain. They discover a motorboat and try to speed away from the island, but Slade goes after them in a plane and is gaining fast at them at this island, at this episode's cliffhanger. Lots of cliffhangers, right? I already gave a comprehensive summary of Anchors Away last episode, so I won't repeat any of it here. Instead, we'll close with the ad from the back cover, which I think is interesting because growing up in the 1970s, I was used to seeing almost this exact same ad on every comic book 40 years later. But what I want to leave you with today are a few spoilers looking ahead. As the superhero genre begins to take hold over the industry, more of the features are going to slowly begin to vanish. 1 year from now, at the end of 1939, the features I described today that will be left will be Barry O'Neill, Federal Men, Captain Desmo, Rusty and his pals, and Anchors Away, and only Rusty and his pals will still be recognizable as the same strip by that point. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have to stick around quite a while until I come back to Adventure Comics again. Hopefully you do, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.